presents Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian.
What is up? Ho-hum, another Lion dominant victory. I'm getting so bored by it, Shep. It's just...
I thought about that word. I did. I thought about that word a little bit. If you're another team, like I was watching with some people and they said, if you're Jacksonville, if you're a Jacksonville fan, how do you feel about this game right now? And then we were late in the third and I said, oh, they're not watching this anymore. Mm-hmm. They're out raking leaves. They're doing what the Lions fans did 10 years ago, right? You and I would have this conversation on Monday morning. What did you do? I gave up. I went and raked leaves. I went to the cider mill. I went and played with the dogs. I played catch with my kids. I went and grilled. I did everything but watch the game. I'm not going to take that approach anymore. I don't care if it's a blowout, Sean. I want to watch every single second of it and relish in it.
You know what's funny, Shep? I made this comment on social media yesterday. I used the Uno reverse card. I really did. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't think I've ever ran out to the cider mill with the Lions up by 25 points.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I
saw your tweet. Yeah, I saw your tweet.
Shep, I could. And it wasn't like, so before, if they were getting hammered in one of those road games, I'd just stay there. I might go swim in that, beautiful creek or something. I might bash my head against the wall. I might take a cyanide capsule or something. But I wanted to get home with my fresh bottle of cider. And all I did was miss a touchdown. That was it. That's all I did was miss a touchdown.
And donuts. Don't forget the donuts. Come on.
Exactly.
Come on. If you want to fight, come on. Let's.
I don't feel sorry for the Jags or the Titans or anybody else. The Dallas Cowboys, I don't feel sorry for any of them. We have been on the other side so many times in our lifetime, man. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry to tell you, man.
All right, here's what I get. I don't know if you get the same thing. Why are you still scoring? Mm-hmm. And why are your starters still in the game? So my response to the starters is always this. There's 48 guys who dress on Sunday, right? There's 53 guys on a roster, 48 guys. You don't have a number two at every single position. You're going to have to play some of your guys, no matter what. That's number one. Number two, teams used to do this for the Lions all the time. Stop them, right? I mean, Detroit's working on stuff too. They're staying in rhythm. You got your ones against my ones. If I got something that I want to use and I think it's going to work, I'm going to do it. Why shouldn't Brock Wright catch a touchdown pass? Why shouldn't Jamison Williams catch a touchdown pass? It's up to you to stop him. I have no issue with it whatsoever.
No, it's professional football, man. I'm sorry. This isn't a Sun Belt team getting hammered by Alabama in the second week of November or anything like that, man. I'm sorry. It just isn't. It's professional football. And get your shopping order. I don't know what to tell you. The Lions have bigger fish to fry. Shep, it's funny. I know you're a college fan as well. It reminded me of the days of the Big Eight yesterday as I was watching that. And when Barry Switzer would just roll through teams when he was at Oklahoma and hang half 100. They have hung half 100 on two teams this year and just missed two other times. It's fascinating to watch.
I agree. It's so much fun. They are so good. They look unstoppable. I tweeted out that this offense reminds me of the great Niners offenses when you and I were kids and when they were great offenses by the Colts, maybe even Peyton Manning and the Broncos, those types of offenses. I don't know if the Rams, the greatest show on turf. It's pretty damn close. I don't think they have a weakness, Sean. I don't think the offense has a weakness at all. You got to give credit to the defense too. And I know Jackson was shorthanded. Here's the other thing that a lot of people ask me. It's quote unquote trap games. I don't know how you feel about that. I'm not a big believer in trap games at the professional level. I think teenagers and young 20-year-olds have a tendency at times to look past a team, but I don't think pros do that quite as much, number one. And number two, I've heard a trap game at Arizona because Seattle was waiting. Remember at Ford Field, and Seattle beat them a year ago, so it's a bit of a trap game. It turned out not to be. That Tennessee was a trap game because it was sandwiched in between the two rivals of Minnesota and Green Bay, right? And that this was a trap game. I just don't think coming off an emotional win over Houston, I just don't buy that. I think what Detroit has done is really impressive. We got to stop looking for reasons why they're going to lose and go back to the reasons why they're always going to win.
Yep. That's exactly. I mean, and I get it. It's the National Football League. I don't even call it trap game, Shep. In the NFL, there are games every year that you just scratch your head. I think I mentioned to you last week, last year the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. They inexplicably lose a game to Aiden O'Connell and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Right.
It's going to happen over the course of 17 games. But this team, it starts at the very top, man. They are focused, laser focused. It's always fascinating to see the interactions after the game as well, because you and I have been there so many times where that place was like a funeral parlor this time of year, where it's just everybody just wanted the season over, and you're sitting there going, I got to do this for the next 2 months. Are you kidding me? Come on,
Not the case any longer. And
no.
I'm so thrilled for Lions fans, especially, your son Jack and my kids and people who had never seen it before. Sure, the old timers, a lot of the old timers remember those great Lions teams of the past. These young kids getting a chance to see just how well-oiled that offense is, how tough, hard-nosed that defense is. Somebody at a different market tweeted back at me about how, when I had tweeted out how good the Lions were and their offensive line is the best unit in the entire sport. You can find maybe the defensive line of Pittsburgh. You can find, maybe running backs of the Lions, for crying out loud, maybe the wide receivers of Houston. I think the Lions offensive line is the best unit in all of football. Take any team, I don't care what position. And so this guy got a little. He's like, don't forget about the Niners and don't forget about the Eagles. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, the Niners have lost teams Detroit has already beaten, including Seattle last night. I think Philadelphia doesn't get nearly enough credit. I'm sure Pittsburgh doesn't get nearly enough credit either. But if you're going to try and beat me with 6 field goals by Chris Boswell, then I think you're going to be in for a long day against a team like the Lions. But I think, let's face it, there's probably 4, maybe 5 teams you and I think can win the Super Bowl. And it's just fun to be saying that the Lions are one of those 5 teams.
Shep, I can definitively say here on November 18th, 2024, the Detroit Lions are the best team in football right now. I have no problem saying that. None.
I don't either. Yep.
None. We are. Yep. Cool. Let's move on. Let's see what happens from here.
Yeah, it's almost like, okay, it's time to talk about something else because you're running out of ways to describe how good this team is. And by the way, it's going to continue next week.
100%.
With all due respect to Indianapolis, I mean, they give up. They have the worst rushing defense in the AFC. They gave up 37 points to Jacksonville earlier this year and lost to Jacksonville. And I know you can't play the A beats B, so B beats C, and C beats A. You can't play that stuff. But Detroit is so focused. They are not letting anything get in their way. Aiden Hutchinson goes down, we move on. Taylor Decker misses a game, we move on. Alex Anzalone goes down, they're going to move on. It's amazing how focused this team is and how disciplined they are.
Our buddy Tom in London, Ontario said, good evening, guys. An awesome job calling the Piston game Friday night, Shep. I didn't get a chance to see it. I had my own broadcast that night. But
you saw it really well.
I want to get your take on the Pistons in a little bit. I do. Because
thank you, Tom.
I'm intrigued. I think a lot of people are intrigued. It's that's the way it is. Nick said, I think you guys need to discuss Brian Kelly. He gone. He said, kidding. It's Lions. Detroit could have kept scoring, but ran out of game. We've been there.
Sean, I read an article. You and I, you do a lot of high school football during the season. You and I are going to do postseason too on FanDuel Sports. I read an article today that said or indicated that Bryce Underwood is going to save Brian Kelly's job. If he indeed goes to LSU, which seems to be the case, as the number one quarterback and number one recruit in the entire country. I don't know if that's the case, I don't think it's a big deal that Brian Kelly lost his cool with some of his players. It happens all the time in college football, happens all the time in college hockey, happens all the time in college basketball. Okay. But the difference is that his team is losing and his team has underperformed this year, and he has underperformed at LSU. That's the reason they're making a big deal out of it. If you're going to make a big deal out of this stuff, just be consistent. All right. Do it with Nick Saban, who's arguably the greatest coach in any sport. Do it with Dabo Swinney. Do it with Kirby Smart. Do it with any other coach. Just don't nitpick. And I'm not a huge Brian Kelly fan, but stop with this. Oh my gosh, look at what he's saying to these guys. He's using the F word all the time to this guy when he's walking away from him, and he should be fired because of it. I got news for you, man. When they were challenging for SEC titles, he was doing the same damn thing.
Absolutely. No, there's no doubt about it. And listen, at the end of the day, too, you have to remember where he's at. Okay. It is LSU. Their tolerance is about this thick. And if you don't believe me, ask Ed Orgeron. He had one of the most dominant champions I've ever seen. And that's not an overstatement.
I agree.
That LSU team was a machine. Mm-hmm. And a couple years later, they buy him out. One of their own, a backyard boy, I mean, with that Cajun drawl and everything. And listen, you don't win. All of a sudden, he lost the locker room stuff. Yeah. It starts coming up, and it tells you that the sands of time are running out on you, BK.
Right. Yeah, right. Go Tigers.
Tim, our resident Packer fan, said, I want to make sure I get this in there. I know there's a rule about the number 3 quarterback playing before the fourth quarter. Is there still a rule about taking Goff out and not being able to put him back in? Yeah, that's a good point. And then he said, I think the Packers did with the Bears. I said it's set up perfect for them to lay an egg, and they just about did it. Wow. Tim, you know what you didn't count on, though? Like that ending was so Bears. That was such a Bear ending, and I love every second of it. It was just so Bears.
What would you – I had this topic earlier today. What would you have done?
So if I was Eberflus?
Yeah. First thing is I don't let 34 seconds tick off the clock.
No.
Okay. I'm not saying throw the football. A 46-yard field goal is not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, it's not like we're going, oh, my God, I can't believe they didn't run more plays because they had to line up for a 52-yard field goal. What's the big deal about a 46-yard? So I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Today, not
it's nothing.
No, it really isn't. It's not anymore.
So you say it's so Bears. I blame Eberflus too. What is it he should have done?
You know what? I would have tried to eat a few more yards, put your guys in a better position. I mean, honestly, that's what I would have. I mean, 46 is still 46. I get it. It's not the 46 from when, we were younger, but it's still a 46-yard field goal. I would have tried to chew a few more yards to put my kicker in a better position. I really would have.
I think I would have too. That said, again, I'm playing devil's advocate. Everybody in the Green Bay defense, all 11 guys look like they were in the box.
Yep.
You don't want to run outside because you burn probably too much clock, and there's a chance of, fumbling, of course. There's a chance of fumbling no matter what. You're not going to throw the ball. We know that. What's the big deal? Shouldn't his players be the one to blame? Let's say he tries to burn more clock, and God forbid he fumbles on the exchange, or the running back, DeAndre Swift, fumbles. What do you think people are saying?
Right.
They're going, you're right there. It's only 46 yards. Why not just take a knee? That's what they're saying, right?
Larry Zonka and Joe Pisarcik, right? It's that kind of stuff. I mean, we'd be talking about it. Yeah.
It's Herm Edwards scooping and scoring.
Yep.
This whole point is because they lost, and it's how they lost. And I get that you're blaming the coach, but maybe you ought to blame the players who were supposed to do the blocking. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, isn't that familiar to what we were just saying too? I mean, are we having this conversation as if Matt Eberflus has 7 wins right now?
No,
right? We're talking about how he got a field goal block. We're not doing all this rethinking. I love that. Greg said Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly has a Southern accent too. When he uses that Cajun drawl, I poop myself. So BK, if you want to do that anytime soon, you go right ahead.
Yeah, we've heard of that in the past of people using different draws. Let me ask you this question though: didn't earlier this year Sean McDermott people feel like he blew a game or two for the Bills. And now we seem to forget about that because
Yeah.
of how good they're playing, right?
Yeah.
Remember, he
Yeah.
made a couple of really bad decisions late in games that gave the opposition the opportunity to win. So yeah, I think it's all about how you end up and whether or not you're winning on the timing of your mistakes.
Yeah. Lions are the best in the NFL. I agree, man. We can't run away with the division yet, though. Nick, I understand what you're saying. Look, and we even have Packer fans in the chat. We're the best team in the division. We're the best team, I believe it, in the NFL right now. But to your point, let's not forget that Jordan Love and the Packers came in on Thanksgiving last year. Let's not forget that Justin Fields almost beat them at Ford Field and then beat them at Soldier Field. You know, those are the things that we can't forget. Now, Caleb Williams, Justin Fields, et cetera, et cetera. But no, I'm with you. And I think that's the difference. One of the things that made me happy is when I heard Dan Campbell, Shep, talking about how they watched the replay of Brock Purdy taking the knees all the time. And I was like, yep, do that. You want to keep the guys focused? That's the way it is.
He knows how to do it.
Yeah. I'll get to Michigan in a second. Chris said, nice hat, Sean, go green. Jeremiah Fick and I both say go white. How about this, Shep? Something you're familiar with. Hey, guys, U of M basketball and the Dusty May era looks like it's off to a fast start. I think they will be fun to watch all season. Hard to be worse than last season. I actually caught part of that Wake Forest game, which Shep, to be honest with you, was disgraceful that they didn't clean the floor. I mean, when you have multiple players on both teams falling at the exact same spot on the floor, it was kind of a weird watch. But
probably should have won that game. But yeah,
they should. I don't think their prize is this year. But everything that I've read about Dusty May, I've never talked to him. I'm not going to pretend that I know him or anything. Everything that I've read about him, and certainly some of the stuff that I've seen so far, including getting some recruits, it sounds like it's headed in the right direction. Because, the last couple of years were a debacle. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah, there wasn't guys were not held accountable, and guys were not fundamentally sound. I've had the chance to talk with Dusty May on a couple occasions. I felt about the hiring of Dusty May at Michigan, much like I felt like the hiring of Jonathan Smith at Michigan State. I think both men will bring their programs back to the center and where it should be. And they're going to be doing it because of their philosophy. And their philosophy, under Dusty May is, fundamentally sound. Michigan State, let's build at the line. Those are two things that I think both those programs have been known for in the past and got away from recently, and now they've recentered themselves, and I like that.
Yep, no doubt about it.
They should be good. They should be good. They've got some good parts. They got a couple of big centers, 2 7-footers. I don't know if both will play in the NBA, but I think they've got some depth, and they've got different. I think in college basketball, it's really important to have a few things. First of all, multiple ball handlers. Michigan has that. Michigan State has that too. But you have to be able to match up with the opposition by going small and or big. Sure. And I think Michigan will be able to do that. Doesn't mean they're going to win the Big Ten and beat Indiana and UCLA and stuff. But I do think they're going to be greatly improved from a year ago. And they will be, middle of the pack. I think in the Big Ten is not saying too much.
Shep, I want to get your thoughts in regards to the Pistons. Bill chimed in and said, how excited are we about the Pistons? Well, let's ask the guy who had a front row seat, called the game on Friday night for FanDuel Sports. Let me tell you about Legacy Partners first. Did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? Our friends at Legacy are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents, and they provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large and small. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes that other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you, and yes, help save you some money at the same time. Chances are, if you haven't checked your policies in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. Look, what are you waiting for? Give Legacy Partners a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Call them today, 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. And I want to keep this in perspective about what's going on with the Pistons, okay? They're not even 500 yet, okay? They're not.
Will be after tonight.
They should be after tonight. But I think with what we've seen the last few years, in particular what we saw last year, we'll take it. I think you wanted to see progress. I think you wanted to see things to build on, not just Cade, but that you wanted to see things to build on. Full disclosure, I'm going to say it again. I had my own game on Friday night, so I didn't see it. But what jumped out to you about that big win in Toronto?
Yeah, what I really appreciated is I went to the morning shoot around the practice that's usually closed, but Greg Kelser and I get to go in there and check it out. And I'm really impressed with how JB Bickerstaff runs it. He's not like some coaches in the past before Dwayne Casey. Because Dwayne Casey ran his practices the same way, where all the coaches are talking.
Right.
It was Jared Jack's scout, so obviously he's going to do most of the talk of any assistants, but all the assistants are involved. JB Bickerstaff know when to talk, when not to talk, lets players and their involvement, and kept the shoot around to about 40, 45 minutes. That was it. In, out. Okay. Not too laborsome. We're really impressed with how Cade Cunningham has assumed more of a leadership role, because in the past he's been just kind of a quiet guy, but he's talking a lot more. But I love the fact that this team has some shooters now. Now, Trajan Langdon told me they're more proud of how their defense is coming along. But I love the fact that Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway when healthy, Cunningham, Jaden Ivey feels a little bit better, Tobias Harris. They got legitimate three-point shooters that you can put around the perimeter and force teams out against them a little bit, which should open things up for guys like Duran and Stewart. I think they're going to be a fun watch this year. I really believe this. I mean, obviously it's easy to be better than 14 wins. I believe they can double their win total. And that's a really hard thing to do in the NBA. And I think they're intriguing for fans because they are the fourth youngest team in the league. The guy they have on the bench, and JB Bickerstaff, is used to nurturing young talent along. Seems to get the best out of young talent. And I think they've got a very good mix. It's not a championship mix, but they've got a good mix with some veterans and some young guys to help each other out a little bit. It's fun.
You know what I'd like to see? And I just looked down and the Bulls are up 65-57 at the half. I would like to see.
Gosh darn it, Sean.
But Shep, you know what? This is what the Pistons have done for a few years now. It's like every time you're starting to get excited and they take a step forward, it's like two steps back. I want to see them stack successes. Look, an 8-point lead at halftime. Oh, no, whatever will we do? That's not the NBA today. They certainly could come back and win this. They should come back and win this. But I think to keep the momentum going and certainly keep the vibes going in the community, it's about – I'm going to sound like Jim Caldwell here. Stacking the wins. Remember, they wanted that Jim Caldwell would talk about the season in fours, and we need to stack wins. I think it would be in the best interest of the Pistons. Let's put together a 2-3 winning streak. Okay, we'll lose one, win a couple more, stack those wins, and I have a feeling that people will be jumping back on in mass.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Look, they've been in just about every game. Not
Sure.
that this should be a big draw, or nor should this be the goal. I think the Knicks are the only team that's really blown them out. Detroit has blown some leads, especially in the fourth quarter, which is troubling. I look at how teams play. I don't always look at the end results unless it's Boston, right? I mean, if you're the Boston Celtics, end results matter, right? If you're Minnesota and Denver, end results matter. If you're the Pistons, I look at how they play. I think they're getting better. I think there's better cohesion. I think Cade Cunningham has been a much better distributor this year. I'd like to see him cut down on the turnovers a little bit, but he has fourth triple-double of the season already yesterday in the win in Washington. And his passing, he's not always looking to shoot now. He's looking to pass first. I think that's a big step for him. I really do.
By the way, Shep, something that you and I were talking about just before we went on. Joe Mixon just took off on a 45-yard touchdown run. A minute and 58 seconds, 2 minutes and 58 seconds into the game.
It's going well in Dallas. It's incredible. It really is. I mean, I know people feel like they have a lot of talent, and perhaps they do. Maybe it's all on Mike McCarthy. It kills me because this guy's won a championship. Mm-hmm. So you think he knows what he's doing. Jerry Jones feels like he built a championship, so he thinks he knows what he's doing. It's just amazing to me how quickly things can turn when players turn on each other too. And it sure seems like there's been a lot of that in Dallas this year, whether it be Micah Parsons spouting off, and I love him because I think he's a really good player, or CeeDee Lamb going nuts on the sideline more than once with Dak Prescott. There's a bad vibe there, right?
Yep.
Even from afar, you can feel it.
Let me tell you about Lindsay Broadwell. When it's time to get yourself a new house, you're buying, you're selling, oftentimes both, you need to contact the right agent. We recommend Lindsay Broadwell. There she is. Your house is probably the biggest investment you will ever make, and that's why you need a pro. Lindsay grew up on the mean streets of Northville and has expanded her team all over Southeast Michigan. She's an expert in all facets of the business, and when it's time to move, Lindsay and her team will make sure you get the most out of your house and everything goes smoothly when finding your new home. Buyer, seller, first-time buyer, doesn't matter. Make sure you contact Lindsay at BroadwellHomes.com. She'll help you with everything from start to close. Licensed realtor at Real Broker LLC. Start your search today at BroadwellHomes.com. Nick said, I know you guys will get to this eventually. Pistons had the Iyer fans last year. Now it's the Wings this year. I'm seeing a lot of fans not happy with Yzerman. I know we say needs 5 years, but I see a lot of frustration. Hey, listen, guys, all bets are off in my mind this year. In my mind, and I said it 1,000 times, don't expect anything in the first 5 years. That clock started. And this team, I'm going to say it again, and I think if you got a mic in front of Steve Yzerman, he would say the same thing. This team isn't close to competing the way that Steve Yzerman said he wanted them to get to, that point that we wanted.
When you say, we talk about this a lot, when you say all bets are off, what does that mean? What are the changes that you could see coming in order for this team to get where you think it should be?
Well, I'll tell you what I mean by all bets are off. It's open season. I mean, when the clock started now, and it's open season, and people are going to take their shots at Steve Yzerman, and people are going to take their shots at Coach Lalone, and they're going to take their shots at the roster construction and the pieces on this roster that, quite frankly, don't belong on this roster.
And they should. And
that's what I mean by open season. I mean, point blank. And say what you need to now. I mean, when you're talking about over 5 years, man, and this is where this team is at right now. And this is not an excuse. This is reality. You're seeing a lot of other teams go through that right now. You're seeing Montreal go through it. You're seeing Anaheim go through it. You're seeing Buffalo go through it. Ottawa go through it. Teams that we all thought in the last couple of years. New Jersey is an exception. I think everybody knew that New Jersey was going to take a step up this year. Shep, I've been pounding this for a few weeks. I'm going to say it again because they're only getting worse. They're now tied for last in PK. And I'm sorry, that's inexcusable. That's inexcusable. It's 66%. So, again, do the math. I was never a math major. Teams are scoring at a 34% clip on the power play. You aren't going to win a lot of hockey games like that. And the Edmonton Oilers, a team that came this close to winning the Stanley Cup last year, are struggling in large part because who are the Red Wings tied with? The Edmonton Oilers. When you're giving up a power play goal at a 34% clip, Shep, think about that. Like, teams on a nightly basis are going at least 1 out of 3. And if it's an event-filled night, teams are getting 2, popping 2. You aren't going to win hockey games like that.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with you. I think most fans in hockey, you've got the diehards, but you've got a lot of casual fans. So when the casual fans look, what do they look at? They look at points, they look at wins and things like that. Even though it should go a lot deeper than that, they're not willing to investigate. When they see Detroit with 15 points and Montreal and Columbus with 14, the only fewer points in the Eastern Conference, They recognize there's no progress being made there, man. It's just not happening. And as much as you and I were just talking about the Pistons and how there's a connectivity there, they seem to enjoy one another. They seem to feed off one another. I think it's the exact opposite with the Red Wings. And I don't know who's to blame for this. I really don't. It's shared throughout, right? The roster construction, and obviously the coaching staff. There is some type of disconnect with a lot of these players. And I am so tired of hearing and reading this one stings. No kidding. They seem to all sting, don't they? Then stop it, okay? Put mud on it, get out there, and finish it off, because they don't seem to be doing that very well right now.
Nick said, I like when you guys throw random things like this. Seriously, I appreciate it. Nick said, most disappointing NFL team, Dallas, Frisco, or Cincy? I think the answer is easy for me, Shep. I'd go Frisco.
Me too. Yep. I think Cincy's – look, Joe Burrow has been unbelievable. If Cincy's winning, Joe Burrow's the leading candidate for MVP. He leads the league in touchdowns. He leads the league in passing yards. He's been sacked 26 times, which is not 41 like Caleb Williams, but he's had a really good season. Jamar Chase has had a really good season. But, man, they have, for some reason, they are snake bit. They can't beat certain teams, and their defense has given up way too many big plays. San Francisco, and I get it, okay, they've had some injuries. Bosa gets injured yesterday. Christian McCaffrey was injured for a while. But remember, Jordan Mason was really good for a long time, helping them. Just ask anybody who owned him in fantasy like me. I think San Francisco, based on what was expected of them and based on their division more than anything else. Seattle is just Rams are just Cardinals are just and yet San Francisco seems to struggle mightily. I agree with you. I think it's the Niners all day long, twice on Sunday.
Brandon said earlier, I wanted to give you some love, Shep. He loves hearing you. He misses hearing you every night. And he also added, I was just going to say, if Cade could cut down on the turnovers. Bill said Wings and Sharks must win. I'm going to stay up for that. Todd said talent or coaching. If it's talent, isn't that bad management? It's both. And let me tell you why it's both, okay? If you are going to sell people on doing it the right way, and what a player was a year or 2 years ago, then I think fans are well within their rights, okay? Especially for some of the people out there that are writing future checks for some of these guys to say, why hasn't Lucas Raymond got to that level that everybody said he was going to be at? Why hasn't Mo Sider established himself as a Norris Trophy type candidate, right?
They're both making $8 million a year. Your cap, because in the NHL, because you have a cap, when you've got Larkin, Sider, Raymond taking up a large chunk of that cap, that's $24 million plus between those three players. Then those guys must perform. You want the cash? That's great. You feel like you've earned it? That's fine. But then go out and you got to continue to earn it, right? And I would say two of the three have not. Larkin has. Now, you and
phenomenal. Dylan Larkin's been phenomenal this year. And I don't use that word lightly, Shep.
Yeah. I think he's been great. He's been great. I don't use that word. He has been great. Their first line has been really good. Everybody else, they feel like it feels like they're just towing along. And it's really bothersome. I don't know what you do to have to put a firecracker in their ass to get them to be better.
I haven't seen I'm not joking. And it's not like I'm watching every shift, okay? So, maybe a guy who's watched every shift can say, I haven't seen Mo Sider take a step in 2 years. Seriously. I thought 2 years ago, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be so good. And that's usually the way development is. And honestly, Shep, I'm not saying that he doesn't belong in the league or anything like that. But to your point, is this guy an elite guy worth that $8 million mark? The answer is no. And Lucas Raymond, the way he played last year, remember when Larkin went out, and especially that last week of the season where it just seemed like every night Lucas Raymond was arguably the best player on the ice. Where's that guy? Where is he? It's really weird right now.
And if that's the case, Sean, how do coaches or teammates get that out of them? How do they get it back?
You're right. I don't know the answer to that. I really don't.
And the reason I ask that is because here's what you and I hear from players and coaches a lot, and you and I agree reiterate it, and I don't think it's wrong. I'm just telling you, I think this is what we reiterate. The best teams are players led, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're led by players, not by coaches. I don't care what sport you are, it's player led. If the Red Wings are player led, who's doing the leading, and why aren't they doing a better job as a leader?
Yep.
That's what I wonder.
That's
Now, maybe they're not player led. Maybe it's coaches led.
Yeah.
So therein lies a problem too, don't you think?
Uh-huh. I'm going to say it again. I'm not one of those guys. I don't like seeing coaches get fired. Shep, in our business, we see people get fired all the time. It is not an easy thing, man. I like Coach Lalonde. I think he knows he's a dead man walking. Honestly, I don't know how much longer it continues. We'll see. Well, if you win a few games and things change.
Then I'm going to make a pretty strong statement here, and you can disagree, and that's fine. But we can have a discussion about it. If that's the case, Steve Yzerman gets one more coach. That's it. Because I'm tired of seeing the failed goaltender experiments. I'm tired of feeling the failed second, third, and fourth line experiments. And I'm tired of hearing how this is the coach you want to bring up. He's the perfect remedy for what we have in line. Go get yourself an established guy and have this guy come in and be a difference maker. It can't be all just one guy. And I don't think Steve Yzerman's like that anyway. Look, yesterday, Doug Peterson, or earlier today, I should say, Doug Peterson had a really good line for the Jacksonville Jaguars. People were asking him about coaching changes. And he says, you really run into a dangerous situation when you start talking about who's going to lose their job and when you start pointing fingers. If you want to start pointing fingers, point fingers at me first. Now, that may get him fired. Who knows? And I don't know how many points he wins with his assistant coaches and with players or members of the media in general. But he's right. No matter how you feel about him, he's right. The head coaches, that's where it starts. Well, guess what? It also starts with the general manager. The general manager has to give them talent. No great team, no team that wins anything. I don't care if it's a division, a conference title, or a Stanley Cup. You don't win without talent. Does this team have, in your mind, good enough talent? You told me at the beginning of the year you thought they would have some pretty good talent. Not sure it was enough to make the playoffs. But right now, you're shaking your head vigorously like they don't have enough talent. That's on the guy who put the roster together.
Yep. Shep, I'm going to say it again. We all work under the assumption, and go back to all those teams that I mentioned: Anaheim, Ottawa, Buffalo, Montreal, Detroit. We all work under the assumption that the young talent is going to go like this. That year 2 will be this, year 3 will be that, year 4 will be that. And if it isn't that, then we've got a problem. If Cole Caulfield does it, that's great. But if player A, B, C, and D doesn't do it, we've got a problem. And the same thing can be said in Detroit. If this guy elevates his game, well, that's great. Good for him. But if this guy, and this guy doesn't elevate his game, and I think that's where the Red Wings find themselves right now.
Yeah. What do you always say, Sean? It's not linear.
Mm-mm.
Just because the team won last year a certain amount of games doesn't mean they're automatically going to win more games the next year. It's the same thing with players.
Yep.
I don't know what has transpired with Raymond and Seider and even a guy like Joe Veleno. I mean, Joe Veleno is a first-round draft pick. And for crying out loud, can he play more than just the fourth line? When are you going to elevate that game, okay, if he's that talented? Okay? I don't – why lock him up for an extra 2 years if you think he's just a fourth-line guy and you can find a lot of those guys? Because he doesn't do anything really great, right? So it's not linear. What has happened with those two players specifically who are supposed to be stars? You're paying them like they're going to be stars. DeBrincat, Larkin, Raymond, Seider are supposed to be your best horses. They are not your best horses. At least 2 of them are not. At least this year.
All right, listen, let's talk about the Wealth Advantage Group. If you're ready to take charge of your financial future, you need to talk to those cats right there. The Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville, owned by Those two brothers, the Handsome brothers with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. And that's why they offer personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning. Now, whether you're saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, already in retirement, these guys can and will help guide you through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients through all stages of life and have clients in over 20 different states. Look, the investment world is a complex one. So if you're ready to start taking your finances more seriously, it might be time to work with the experts. Reach out to my friends. I'm also their client. The Wealth Advantage Group at 248-773-8574, or check out their website at www.thewealthadv.com.
Hey, before we get out of here,
Mm-hmm.
how do you measure? I think hockey's very unique
Mm-hmm.
because I don't think most people know it. I know most people know it. You and I both have always said that about, let's face it, sports radio. I mean, how many people are really talking about the Red Wings? Because they're not comfortable with it. They don't know the sport quite as well.
Sure.
So how do you measure how good a defenseman is? What is the tangible statistic that is associated with that, much like, let's say, I don't know, strikeout to walk ratio, ERA to a pitcher, for example, on base percentage for a hitter? Give our audience an opportunity to really what you would dive into, because for most people, I think, Sean, most people, maybe the naive fans would go, oh, plus minus for a Mo Sider, who's a -2. How do you judge that?
I think that it's kind of unfair, and I'm going to cite my favorite player ever. Larry Robinson has the greatest plus minus by a million in the National Hockey League. Okay, it's not. I can't believe I'm disrespecting the fine name of Larry Clark Robinson. I don't think that's a fair barometer. And I'll tell you why I don't think that was a fair barometer. He played on a team that was an absolute wagon in the 70s. And those numbers just went like this and went like this and went like this. A lot of times it's not a particular player's fault if he doesn't have a great surrounding cast around him, the plus minus. So I think sometimes, Shep, you know this, the numbers don't always tell the tale. I was talking to somebody last week. There's a kid that I think is by far and away the best player in Michigan high school hockey, a kid that goes to Heartland. And I said, if you're looking for his name amongst the scoring leaders, you're not going to find it. You aren't. You're not. He's not going to be that guy that puts up 71 points in 26 days or something, 26 games or something. And you know why? Because more often than not, he's going to be back behind a play, facilitating in the background, and maybe not getting a point, but playing a 200-foot game. To me, I look at a guy, Shep, as how he takes care of his business in his own end, first and foremost. Is he a liability in his own end? And in the National Hockey League today, whether we want to admit it or not, and this is what pissed me off about Ken Holland not taking Hughes in the draft, I saw that kid. I told anybody that would listen, Shep, I saw that kid. He was the prototypical and is the prototypical defenseman in the National Hockey League today.
In today's game. Yeah. I called some of his games at Michigan. I couldn't believe they didn't take him. My youngest son is good friends with some ex-college hockey players and at high level. Okay. And he says when they talk about him, one of those kids, by the way, now plays in the NHL. And he said, those kids said, the best player I've ever played against? Absolutely. Hughes, for sure.
It's his skating. It's effortless. I'm serious. I'm not trying to be a nerd. The next time Vancouver's on, watch him skate. It's beautiful. Like honestly, I almost want to see him have some music playing and he can do one of those little fruity figure skating things, because a kid probably get a medal at the Olympics, right?
Yeah, who are the best skaters ever? They believe it's guys like Paul Coffey, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mike Gartner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I love the way
Pavel Bure was shot out of a gun.
Yep.
Man, I loved watching him skate.
I love watching Connor McDavid skate. But yeah, I mean that's who he is. I mean this kid he's unbelievable. But anyway.
A couple comments.
Bill wants to know: are you guys calling the MHSA football finals this year? Yes, we are. What divisions do you have, Sean?
We have 3-7 Grant Perry, former Michigan Wolverine and 3-time state champion at Brother Rice. We're doing Division 3 and 7 on Saturday morning and afternoon.
Good. I am doing 1, 2, 5, and 6 with Rob Rubik. So this will be my 28th straight year.
Good for
calling
you,
high
Shep.
school football.
I
Something
love
like
it. I'll see you there, buddy.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
I'm looking forward to
It's
it.
labor of love for all of us because it takes, as you know, an incredible amount of preparation. But we all know the schools they've got their DVDs rolling. So you like to tell as many stories as we possibly can about the community and about the teams. I'm super excited for all of them. So
Can't wait. Sean, in light of the Bryce Underwood saga, can we get an update on Milky Waters? Bill said Milky Waters is my porn name. Brandon said he's the finest 6-star player in the country. Well, I think he's waiting for some more Nike money. I have a feeling he'll stay in the Great Northwest, the first 6-star recruit, Milky Waters.
Looking forward to it, man. I got to look him up again.
He was phenomenal. Hybrid defensive end quarterback. Who knew? Who knew?
Kika Lama Francis. That's who I look at.
Shauner is a fruity figure skater Olympic judge. Listen, Bill, I no joke. You guys have probably heard me say this. I got more crap for this than you could shake a stick at. I am fascinated by them. I watch figure skating every Olympics, and you can laugh at me. You can rip on me. Say whatever you want. I don't care. Watching them do the things that they do on skate, Shep, you could take a stick and give me a Mickey Redmond BC two-hander in the back of my head. I couldn't do that stuff on accident. You know, I mean, you drop me from some of the stuff they do on skates, I just sit there and go, how the hell did you do that? It is fascinating to me. I'm serious. And people have ripped on me for years, but I love it.
I'm not going to rip on you. I just can't relate to what you're talking about. That's all.
All right, let me talk about All About Catering. All About Catering LLC is a full-service caterer, graduations, weddings, bridal showers, corporate events, anything you need catering for from 25 to 4,000 people. All About Catering can and will take care of you. Customer service and satisfaction is their number one goal. So do not sweat your next big event. Just go to allaboutcateringllc.com. Get a hold of Rick, check out their menus and all their 5-star reviews. Call them 586-731-1398 to get your event started. Now, Bill, all jokes, I'm not joking. I got crap for it when I was on the Fan. I got crap for it when I was on 961. I'm fascinated by I just sit at the television and go, how the heck did you do that? How does your body bend like that, dude? What the heck's wrong with you, you know?
I'm laughing at Nick's text to us.
The Trump dance.
Nick says, I bet a figure skater does the Trump dance in their routine during the next Olympics.
Jeez.
Oh, man. When Zadarius Smith and Rodriguez did that together, I could not stop laughing.
It's unbelievable.
So funny. Max
really
Crosby does it. John Jones does it in the ring. It seems to be everywhere. It's hilarious.
And Trump, he's probably sitting there going, everybody loves me. They're not making fun of me. Everybody they know what a great dancer I am. Yeah, it's just some whack crap like that, you know? All right. We got to get out of here.
All right, enjoy the game tonight, buddy.
Talk to you Thursday morning. We'll see you. Todd. Thank you. Thank you, guys. God bless you. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Shep and Sean, featuring Matt Shepard and Sean Baligian. Executive produced by Sean Baligian and Todd Losey. Theme song, incidental music, and related sound effects are from Still Alive by Anti-Ghost. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.